Hello everyone! Yippee! Walpurgisnacht is here! Just slightly quieter. It's time again, manager. Or librarian, rather. It also comes with the 4th mirror dungeon, but I'll talk about it later. It brought with it a new event fight from Library of Ruina this time, against Fairy Festival. This event can have some tougher missions, so this video is a guide on ways to do them all before the event ends. Before we begin, the event also brought us a new ID and 2 egos. I already made shorts about them, but to summarize them in a few words: potential, best worst ego, and boundary of death. It cost me 250 pulls to get them. Yes, we see Sanctum. And I missed Yesod. If you wanna check the horror it was, or my Valplug is clear, I did it in live. But anyway, about this guide. Note that I might name IDs or egos, and once again, if you don't have them, well, the game has enough tools now, so you should be able to find one way or another, though it might require either good planning and maybe luck. But the missions this time don't require too much specific things like last time, and I'll prove it later. What you need is one status infliction team between burn, bleed, sinking or rupture, and you might not even need a full team but just an ID or 2, and some ego or ID skills with 3 attack weight or more. So first of all, why? Let's start by explaining the fight. The easy version first, because there is an easy and hard version. The fight presents itself like this. You have the boss, the Fairy Queen, and the mobs, the Fairy Masses. The fight ends when the boss, this one, is killed. So what are this fight's gimmicks? Well, first of all, the mobs' passives. They can die and heal themselves over time. Now the boss. The last passive helps with getting SP and resources quickly, while this one gives bleed some interest. But the gimmick is on the other side. First of all, it will give to its minion a status, Prepared Meat. When it's at 1 HP at turn end, it will die, and the queen will get massive debuffs the following turn. The strategy is to defeat the mass with the status, and then burst down the queen the following turn. During those turns, it will use Ravening Anger, its most powerful skill, but with the debuffs, it's not too scary. It will also use Queen's Decree, which inflicts Prepared Meat to one of its allies. If you reduce all masses' health, and since it's at combat start and the passive is at turn hand, you can ensure the debuffs will last several turns in a row. But Magnet, yes, what prevents us to just ignore the masses and burst down the queen? Well, nothing. However, just be careful, as if it ends its turn under 25% HP, it will hit all remaining masses for some healing. Also, if no more masses are left when it's under 25% HP, it will gain a massive power boost. So be careful to kill it by then, or be ready to tank, or to claim bones. Also, here are the masses and the queen's weaknesses. As you might see, they aren't too resistant, so defeating the masses and bursting the queen shouldn't be too difficult. But you see those sins? It means... Yep. You have a few options, but burn teams, W teams, NV teams, ER teams all have a field day. Also in this fight, your first deployed unit is getting the Assistant Librarian of History buff, which grants it Sanity at the start, as well as another skill slot and double status infliction for the main 5. However, let's get to the missions. Here's a list of all 9 of the easy missions. Out of those, there are quite a few ones you're likely to clear on your first try, as long as you play well enough. If you follow the fight's gimmick, you should get this one, and if you don't rush and take some time to defeat the masses, you might get the other one too. The status infliction missions are the one which requires you to get a team for it. Getting 10 potency of any status shouldn't be the hardest. Killing the queen with it might be the hardest part. Out of the 4 statuses, Gloom and Rupture are the easiest to kill with, as long as you have the team to sustain the count, which can be done easily with the right IDs or egos. Bleed, while there is a passive helping with potency, can be hard to sustain on count depending on the conditions. However, with the queen having overall low skilled numbers and coins per body part, it can be done. Burn is a bit slow, so you have to be careful about the damage of your skills. An important note is that Dark Flame damage doesn't seem to count, so be careful about this. It should proc after burn though. Might be the same with Sinking Deluge for sinking. You're able to do all the missions in one try, But if you want to take it easier doing it in 2 times, it's fine. The cost to enter is 1 module, and it is refunded on give up, so just take it into account. To do it in 1 try, here's a summary of what to worry about. Focus the masses when they are marked so they get hidden, while stacking some status on the queen. The earlier they get eaten, the earlier another mark can get inflicted. As I said, you can make sure the queen hits all the fairies by turn 3 end, however, taking advantage of the fragile on queen would be better, at least to break the arms. You might want to focus one arm in particular for both status infliction and higher damage once broken. The queen killing all fairies when it's under 25% HP might work too, but it's gonna heal. Meanwhile, just make sure that the ID with the buff doesn't get hit too much, which should be okay if you clash often, and that the status you chose kills the fairy. For Sinking and Rupture, it can be a bit random with skills damage, but it has a high chance once at 99 potency, and Bleed you can let it kill itself on your blocks once stacked. In the same way, Burn is slower but easier to ensure if you just block and evade some turns. Just be careful about counters. Now that we're done with the easy version, let's get to the hard one, which is, obviously, trickier. First of all, your IDs are not automatically max level, so careful about that. Also, the history buff have some added benefits, which heals lowest SP ally sanity and gives ego resources on kill. The reason for that is, while it is similar looking, there are quite a few differences, even though the core concept stays the same: kill the queen. Looking at the masses, the main difference is that they can now be killed, hence the history buff. However, they will respawn infinitely. They also have higher HP. The queen has the same stats, and still the cells will bleed when an arm is broken, as well as SP and ego resources at the end of turn. However, she has quite a few more passives, and its behavior is very different. Now she only kills allies through this passive. If the ally with prepared meat is staggered, kill it. This in return heals it, but also gives it 1 fragile. So the base principle is the same. However, she now has a hanger status. This increases at the end of turn if she doesn't kill an ally with prepared meat. The lower the HP, the more it increases. When she's at 4, it will target allies with prepared meat itself with ravening hunger to kill them, and if it does, it will get permanent bonuses. If you get to this state, you want to make sure it doesn't kill its allies by redirecting the skill or killing them yourself. On the other side, if it kills its allies from the passive, it will lose hunger, and when it's at 0, it will suffer some debuffs. So there are 2 ways of doing this fight. Let it hit its prepared meat allies by staggering them, or ignoring it and rushing the queen itself. And I have good news. If you don't know which one to take, well, the missions require to do both. So let's get to them. Here's a list of missions for the hard version. There are a few new ones, but most are harder versions of the previous ones, like inflicting 40 or more potency of a status instead of only 10. However, the missions require you to do the fight at the very least 2 times, as there are some that you cannot do at once. Those missions means you'll have to do it once while following the gimmick of it hitting its allies, and another one while you have to rush it down. You still also have to kill it with a status, and this time you also have to kill 3 masses in 1 skill with the ID that has the history buff. This can be an ego. I did all those missions in 3 times instead of 2, as I experimented it blind. However, if you're playing with a good enough team while being careful, you should be able to do all those missions in 2 tries. For the potency mission, you'll have to be more or less careful about the status infliction outside burn, as they can disappear quickly. Burn is the easiest to stack, as long as you have some count. You don't need a full team, but again, it's easier to kill the queen with a status if you have one designed around it. Otherwise, what I said for easy missions applies there as well. For the mission to break both arms, you'll have to divide your damage towards both arms. The easier way is probably to clash against most kills, and once of them is staggered or close to, focus it to break it while staggered. But now I'd like to focus on the harder missions. First of all, the queen killing no fairy. It might be the main objective of a try. This means either killing the masses or completely ignoring them. If you try clashing with them too much or with stronger skills, you risk getting them staggered, and if they get the prepared meat status the same turn or before, it's over. You want to look out for this skill that it will use on turn 2, which does give it to all allies. Killing them does require quite a bit of damage focus, which you could just use on the queen instead. So if you resist their attacks or have a tank, you're better off trying to rush the boss. Tiny Wing Beat is their only menacing skill, so if you can resist it, it should be okay. You might want to keep killing the queen with status or breaking both arms for another attempt, as it might be slower. However, you can get it under 10 turns. What you are required to do in another attempt, however, is letting it kill 10 fairies and 3 in a single turn. This requires you to take it slower, as you have to let it stay alive until it kills 10 fairies, which is not even that easy if you're inflicting a lot of status or damage in general, so think about defense skills. Overall, you're probably better off doing both missions at the same time. What you are looking for are those two skills, Queen's Decree and Time to Pay for My Care. The first one gives Prepare Me to one ally, while the other to all allies. You can recognize them by their skin color. It will usually use the second on turn 3, and the other 2 times every couple of turns. When it does the second, the best thing is to stagger all 3 masses at once, either one by one or with an AoE. Refer to the weaknesses again if you need to. If you do this, it will not only fasten the process, but fulfill the 3 fairies killed by the queen at once mission, as they'll all be eaten at turn's end, since it gives the status at combat start. If you stagger a fairy when it doesn't have the status, and it cannot get it before recovering, you're better off killing it. If it gets the status on the turn it is already staggered, you're good though. Just repeat the process slowly until it hits 10 masses, the counter being shown under it, and then kill it. That takes care of those missions. The last mission that could pose problem to people is this one. The Baron of History defeats 3+ abnormalities with a single attack skill. This does take into account egos, of course. The simplest way to accomplish this mission is to kill 3 masses at once. To ensure they all get killed from the same skill, it's best to kill them all in one turn from full life. Using 2 egos with sufficient damage can be enough, just ensure your librarian is the one killing them. What you should remember is that you get ego resources every turn, and you need to wait a few turns to get both resources and sanity, but usually you can gather everything and set up for turn 3 or 4. Also be careful of targeting, as depending on the slots you're targeting, it might do weird redirections. If you can, try to get every slot of the queen targeted to avoid it. There are a lot of different setups available, so let me give you a small list of egos and IDs that can work. If you remember the weaknesses, you're fine. ID-wise, Regret Faust, Chief Butler Yoshu, and Dawn Office Sinclair are strong for this, just requiring setup. As I mentioned for Sinclair, using 2 Sunset Blades will not work, as using one will bring your SP under 45 and it won't have 3 attack weight. Also, you have to clash before using one, so it can be clunky. Otherwise, egos are your best bet, so here's a few you can use, which have 3 or more attack weight and one of their weak scene or slash. Force Match Flames, Red Eyes or Gregor's Garden of Thorns are probably highlights, but there are a few more options if you need, and you can increase the number of ego uses to help, and if you really need to, you can hit fairies individually with other sinners, but careful to inflict a similar amount of damage to each. Overall, Ryoshu is one of the best sinners for this though. Finally, quite a few support can help you in the bench, like damage ones, or especially ones such as Spicebush Shisangs or Bullet Otis. As for me, well, I wanted to succeed with Sinclair, so I took him, and managed to do it, with Lifetime Stew. So, it happens that with a good enough setup, you can get to 45 SP on turn 1 with him as History Librarian. By turn 3 you can get close to 45 again, and then on turn 3 you can use Sunset Blade on a clash with one of the fairies, and if it wins clashes and roll all heads with passive active, it will do just enough damage without other buffs to get masses under 20 HP. And at that point, even Lifetime Stew rolling heads will kill them. So that's what happened. Once I did it, it was a try where I didn't let the queen hit its fairies, so I just focused it afterwards and finished my missions with it. And that's it. With this, you should have all your missions done. So get your rewards, fail your pulls, and wait for the next Walpurgisnacht. Also, don't forget to grind the new MD4 now. This starlight won't collect itself. But in conclusion, I think the event, while simple, was nice, and it didn't ask for another 7 kills at once mission. While it does advantage the new ID, it certainly isn't required. But anyway, we're now set up for what? 16 more Walpurgisnacht? Why am I saying that? Well, we did the control team last, right? And now the story floor. So, well, there are quite a few floors to go through. But for now, regarding Fairy Festival, one could say that we wing beat it. No, sorry, I didn't have any other ideas. No, stop. And that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Final message. Alright, this video is a bit late. I hope you can finish the event before it ends still. Regarding MD4, I don't know if I'll do a video, but basically, since it takes everything back from MD3, it's just a pure upgrade, isn't it? But anyway, this event took all my lunacy away, so I have to restock. But video-wise, I really want to do another animation story video. Subscribe and check the community tab for more news. In any case, see you next time, and keep your sanity high in this slow descent into the inferno.